All right, and so for episode 3, we are going to use the word fantasy. So fantasy, this is a word that actually kind of makes me cringe when I got ready to do this, and here's why. We grew up in a world where when you're younger, there's a certain childish aspect to what you're told. This can happen, anything can happen, yada yada. As you grow up, you have to buy into reality. It's really important. If you don't, you're not going to advance. Fantasy is meant to be something to take you away from the real world. It's not meant to be something that is to replace the real world. And more today, I think people are doing that. So what really led me to this is relationships. I think there's a lot of fantasy around relationships. I think that relationships are not displayed correctly. First off, on TV, music, movies, anything you watch, really. I've never really found relationships to be truly displayed correctly. Now, that's not to say it never happens, but for a majority of what is available, you only get to see the highs and the lows. You don't get to see the mediums. And the medium is reality. The medium is what everybody wakes up to each day. Those highs and lows that TV shows and music and movies bank off of, those are the extreme moments that you talk about during the medium. Here's another way to put this. Relationships, and you can say dating, engaged, married, whatever it is, it's about those quiet nights when you're just sitting there watching TV. It's about, can you be in a car together for more than 10 minutes comfortably? It's about, can you have a real conversation? It's about those things. It's not about, can you overcome this one horrible thing, or can you beat the odds and do this, or however you want to look at it. Whether it's you're starting a relationship from one that's crumbling and you're using that as fuel, or maybe, and this is something that a lot of people will tell you, relationships that start out as cheating don't last. And it's the truth. Another issue is that people move too fast, trying to skip reality, trying to skip building a foundation of reality to get to that fantasy that they want to get to at the end, and they're not watching the journey. They're not watching the steps along the way that'll show you if that's the right person for you. From the outside looking in, it's always going to be tough to judge those relationships. But from the inside, you have to have self-awareness of, am I building the right foundation of reality to enjoy that fantasy? Now, me personally, I've had a lot of relationships. That looking back, friendships and even dating, where I did not apply enough reality to what should come of it, or I should expect. I wanted to move too fast at certain times, or I ignored certain things and red flags and signs that really I should have seen coming. And it happens to everybody. The point, though, is that at some point in your life, you have to start looking at reality. You have to start looking at what is really real, not what is on TV and in music and on movies that you can use to say, that's what I want, just those moments. No, you need the lifestyle. You need the decision to be in that relationship and be faithful to that person, that decision to have a family and be engaged in their life, that decision to work hard and grind it out to get to what those goals are. You can get to a form of that fantasy, you just can't get to that exact fantasy. I think that one of the things that really annoys me is that more so now than ever, because of the internet and because of how small the world has become, we see hundreds of cases of, whether it's kids rushing into relationships and kids having kids, or parents rushing into relationships and having issues down the road that cause divorce. And I'm talking about extreme issues. I'm not talking about these like your normal case if we just grow apart. I'm talking about the things that there were signs from the start that we should have been aware of. We have to be able to create a foundation and a base of solid reality before we go after that fantasy. The fantasy is obtainable to a certain degree. The reality is easy. The reality is what you see every day. The reality is waking up next to a person and being satisfied with whatever you wake up next to. Not waking up next to a person and expecting them to be perfect every single moment. That's not reality. And I think that, as I read through some of my notes here and look at what I have, I think that there is more that we can do as individuals to avoid these pitfalls. We can take a step back and think. We can evaluate, talk to people we trust, and understand that reality is a grind. Fantasy is like winning the lottery. That's all I got for this one, guys. I appreciate you listening. This is Tony K. Podcast Season 3, Episode 3, Word Association, Fantasy.